Hey, what's going on, everybody? Brian Zimmerman here, executive editor of Jazz's Magazine and host of Jazz's Live, coming to you on a Monday after a few days off. We took a few days off last week for some rest and relaxation, but we're back on a Monday, our favorite day of the week. That's because it is Miles Monday, the day we celebrate all things Miles Davis, the man, the myth, the legend. We do that, of course, with my loyal co-host. That would be Vince Wilburn Jr., drummer extraordinaire and nephew to Miles Davis. He'll be here along with today's very special guests. Really excited to be talking to these guys. And you're going to be excited to hear from them. I hope you're hungry too, because, wow, how do you explain today's guests? They are the Potash Twins, Ezra and Adeev Potash. They're musicians, jazz musicians, Manhattan School educated, SUNY Purchase educated, released an album, the Potash Twins, that landed as high as number 9 on the iTunes jazz charts. But they're also kind of these culinary food adventure superstars. They have been on food networks. They have a show coming up on Food Network called the Takeout Twins. They've had a show on Bravo called Beats and Bites. There was a Travel Channel special called Southern Road Trip with the Potash Twins. They're chefs, they're TV personalities, they're excellent jazz musicians. But most importantly, they're lovers of all things Miles Davis. So they're going to be here to talk about it. Let's go ahead and welcome let's welcome everybody. Vince Wilburn Jr. and the Potash Twins, Ezra and Adeev. What's going on, everybody?
Hey, Brian.
Hey.
Thanks for having us on today. We're excited to be here.
Welcome to the party. Thanks very much for being here.
What's up, guys?
What's going on, Vince?
All right.
Looking good in the studio with the leather couch. That leather couch looks very comfortable.
It is. It's where the music goes down.
Ooh, yeah, ideal for cranking on some Kind of Blue.
Maybe I made a mistake asking any questions about the history of the leather couch.
No. That's just where you hear the playbacks. You know, you can't see it, but the monitors are in front of my face, and then you chill on the couch and you dim the lights and you hear the playbacks.
And you lay as far back as possible into the most comfortable couch in the world, and then you just listen to tunes.
Yeah, you could kick back, man, and hear some of the music we're working on.
No, you sink into the couch while the music sinks into you.
That's right.
It's like a turducken of music.
It sinks into your heart.
Anyway, enough about this couch.
Like I said, I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you so much. Let's sort things out, first of all, before we go any further. Which one of you is Adeev? Which one of you is Ezra? Just so our viewers know.
Adeev and White, unless you're just listening to us with the audio, and that was not helpful. D
and Ez. I'm in the blue hoodie. Ez is in the blue hoodie.
And we should mention your instrumentation too.
Yeah.
D, you're a trumpet player.
Yeah.
And I'm a bass trombone, and tuba player.
Holding it down on the low end.
But mainly on trombone now.
Very cool. Hey, before we get any further, I just want to let you know some Jazz's news, by the way. We've got a special issue for people watching, a special issue out right now that is all about Santana. Actually, the Santanas, Carlos Santana and his wife, Cindy Blackman Santana. There they are on the cover. All you have to do is go to jazzes.com, click digital issues. You'll find it there. Wide-ranging interviews with Santana, reviews of some of Santana's classic jazz fusion albums, reviews of classic Santana albums, a video exclusive from Cindy Blackman Santana from her new album, Give the Drummer Some. A lot of cool stuff going on in this issue. And yeah, it's on our site right now. Vince, man, Miles and Santana were tight, correct?
Very tight. Uncle Miles used to wear a piece that Carlos gifted Uncle Miles that I think my cousin Cheryl has now. Carlos jammed with us at Giant Stadium, the Amnesty concert.
That's right.
Carlos, we've been to Carlos's home, and he's got in the back of his house up in the Bay Area, he's got this cathedral of bootleg tapes of Coltrane and of Miles and of Jimi Hendrix, and it's a vault. It's an actual vault, and it's all documented and labeled, and it's amazing, man. You could spend like days just checking out all this unreleased music,
I know. Actually, Carlos was on the show. He told me if I had the money, I'd convert all the Apple stores into a Miles Davis store. He just go in and listen to Miles Davis all day.
He made me an iPad with all Miles.
Yeah.
And he etched Miles in the back. It's in the other room. But
he had the most beautiful commentary on your documentary, Vince, about Miles. I love that.
Oh yeah, yeah. They loved each other.
I also wanted to just say about Carlos Santana as like a musical figure. He's one of those superstars that from being a jazz musician, you knew he was into jazz. Like it wasn't just like he was this famous figure. It was he had this historical understanding of music that I think we didn't see represented a lot in just like rock stars and stars who were performing music of all kinds. And we kind of knew,
that Santana was on that level.
Yeah, that Santana was on the level that like listened to the stuff and grew up and like shedded the stuff that we all did. So there was always
he was like Miles Davis' #1 fan, basically.
Pretty much.
So that says enough.
President of the fan club. And I mean, Coltrane, he loved Coltrane. He told a story about like meditating and, tripping out with Alice Coltrane and seeing Coltrane in visions and stuff. A real student of jazz. A real student of jazz. And just a badass rock guitarist, man.
Wait, you're saying he met Coltrane in a drug-infused vision?
That is correct.
That sounds like the optimal scenario for. First of all, let's say that don't do drugs, kids. But if you were going to, and you met John Coltrane,
then do it.
Would it be so bad? Yes.
Yeah.
All right, getting some love on Facebook already. Lavinia Dreamweaver, hello.
Hey, Lavinia.
Hi, Lavinia.
And shout out to Cindy Blackman.
And shout out, amazing drummer.
Santana.
Played with everybody. Played with Ronnie. Lenny Kravitz. Yeah. So thanks for letting me pitch our stuff there. But yeah, that special issue is on the site right now. But enough about us. I mean, Adeev, Ezra, first of all, your story is amazing. Just the way you're able to kind of straddle these two worlds, of food and jazz. And, there's not much crossover that I'm aware of. So, this is all kind of news to me. I would love to hear about how you got to those crossroads. We were talking a little bit before we went on air. You guys grew up in Nebraska.
Omaha, Nebraska. Yeah. Brian, I want to say that we're very, very lucky that we've somehow been able to find success in like two random places. Yeah. Because we grew up being jazz musicians. I mean, we were living in our.
That was all we wanted to do.
It's all we wanted to do was all we we were the only people that had probably seen the entire Ken Burns jazz documentary when we were like in middle school and thought it was the shit. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like,
and it was. Shout out to Ken Burns. It was.
Yeah. I mean, I know there's debates about the 60s and on there, but for being. For not having had parents that were jazz musicians, and we were kind of like on our own learning about this world, I think watching the Ken Burns documentary was like a way to really be brought up to speed. It was like an older generation telling the younger generation what we expected of you.
I also want to say that as a young musician, when we were 11 or 12 starting to play instruments, there was something so appealing about jazz because it was so free. And I know everyone says that.
Well, it felt free because the first album we ever heard was kind of blue and Miles made jazz free.
Yes. So what I'm trying to say is it's like when you're starting to learn music, all you're doing is reading music, really. Right. And when someone says like, hey, take these note cards and you don't need to look at them anymore and just start talking, that is a very freeing activity to find yourself in. But then when you do that with music, it's just like, I mean, and Miles would say this all the time, especially with the bebop era, is that there were so many chords it felt like a trap for a lot of musicians. And then he later went on to say like no chords, so no chords, more freedom.
I think less chords, more freedom.
Yeah. So
no, you can't do music with no chords. But our story kind of developed from there. We met Wynton Marsalis. We snuck backstage to meet Wynton Marsalis when we were like 14.
Did you come through Omaha?
He was in Lincoln, Nebraska, and we drove down there to go just see him as, we were such big fans of his, and obviously he's a trumpet player in a Nebraska musician. You're going to be a fan of Wynton Marsalis. And we snuck backstage and just said, we're young, but I think this is something we want to do. And we played for him, and we
brought our horns.
We played for him, and he after like an hour of him teaching us a lot. He gave us a cell phone number and said, when you're in New York, give me a call. And so we found a reason, a month later to get to New York just to call him, because those are the kind of people we are. And we got together with it. We called him, and he's like, "Wow, no one takes me up on that. Usually, we were surprised to hear that."
Yeah.
And then like the rest was kind of history. He helped us get into Manhattan School of Music with full ride scholarships, and
He helped us with our college essays, and
he helped us with everything. And we moved to New York. And when we got to New York, you know, he connected us with John Batiste, who we played with for several years. And he would always say, like, you know, you guys are like poor college kids. If you need food, come to Jazz and Lincoln Center, and they'll feed you. So we would go like several times a week.
And we'd go there, and it would be like we'd be in Wynton's dressing room, and just literally everybody.
Paul Simon would be in there, and Elvis Costello would be
Harry
in there.
Belafonte. And we'd just be like eating Boltong with Harry Belafonte,
and he Masakela,
and he Masakela. And Boltong is a South African like beef jerky, which is amazing. For those who don't know.
But basically, this was sort of our introduction to New York. Coming from Nebraska, Nebraska, New York City, dressing rooms with like the people you've heard about your whole life.
And we met with Batiste like our first or second day in New York City, and he
played with him
at Lincoln Center like that day, or the next day.
And we played with him in Harlem all the time too. But so we were at Manhattan School of Music. Dee was studying under John Faddis because he's like a lead trumpet player, and But then, like, we moved to New York and, like, had this sort of, like, eye-opening experience about, like, food from other cultures. We were, like, from Nebraska. We just moved to New York City. We were trying shit before. So it was really cool to be like, oh, wow, we're, like, musically we're being enlightened, but also culinarily we're being enlightened. And we kind of made, when we weren't practicing, because, that's all you're supposed to do when you're in music school.
Right.
Late night, you find, like there's the street meat things, and there's like, you start to find out where all the cab drivers go, and you go to, incredible Pakistani restaurants, and all of a sudden you're having biryani dishes you've never had. And so it just led to this like crazy enlightenment for us, which was like this intense bubble of practicing jazz and eating food. And we were like, there's something to this, because when a chef is, coming up with a dish and a musician's writing a song, you're thinking about harmony, texture,
right?
Just composition is very similar.
And also the structure in the way that you would run a band is the same way you run a kitchen. You have an executive chef, you have an expediter, you have
people play these different roles.
Yeah, they all play these different roles in the same way a bass player would establish the
foundation,
harmonic progression of a song.
Right.
And the drummer with the momentum and the style of which you're playing any of the songs.
But the band leader is the executive chef.
Absolutely.
Miles was the executive chef, and
Miles Davis was the executive chef.
Miles
Davis was the executive chef of life. I think that's where we are, because now there's a day of the week in which Jazz's magazine speaks about
That's
Miles.
right.
So,
yeah.
Well, and that's not far of an overreach too, because
wait, the hell of one damn minute.
Do we break Vince?
Nebraska, you want to play jazz.
Mm-hmm.
You go buy horns. You go backstage. You watch the Ken Burn documentary.
Mm-hmm.
You say, let's go to New York.
Mm-hmm.
You're in New York. Then the culinary thing bites you and the music bites you, and you're like, I mean, how does that happen? I mean, did you guys just wake up one day and say, since your parents, were they into jazz?
Oh yeah,
my dad was
the first music I remember hearing was kind of blue. My dad would have it on all day and all night.
Okay.
And other jazz albums,
and a lot of Wynton as well.
But how old were you then?
When we moved to New York, or like when we first started hearing jazz?
When you first started, like I knew I was a little drummer boy at 5 years old in Chicago.
Okay.
So go ahead.
So I would say 7 or 8 years old. We were like conscious of what we were listening to.
Yeah, and we were playing piano back then too.
And then at 10, 11, we picked up the horns. At age 12 or 13, my dad took us to New Orleans, and it was over. We're like, this is the coolest place on earth.
And we jammed at Tipitina's.
We jammed at Tipitina's. We ate the entire city, and we were like, this is our city. Right.
You know what? That trip might have played a much deeper role in this than we think. That's the first time we've talked about that. But we ate beignets at Cafe Du Monde and jammed at Tipitina's.
And then had dinner at Emerald's. And
one of the best food cities in the world.
Yeah. I would say not only one of the best food cities, but
a convergence of literally everything.
Yep.
Well, I mean, there's
Congo
the
Square.
Mississippi River. It's a lot going on. But I just think, like, in terms of culinary city, it has its own identity. Like, it has the most identity
It has
of
an
a culinary
international identity.
Yeah, it has the most identity of a culinary scene in the United States, historically so.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, New York is obviously known for fine dining, and now LA is getting to have a.
And also, I think I want to elaborate on that because I think you hit on something. And I'm sorry, Brian, and I'm sorry, Vince.
No.
But like musically, New Orleans is such an important place to jazz. Not only because you have European harmonies and African rhythms and in Louis Armstrong, but food-wise, it did the exact same thing New Orleans did.
French food.
It did with French food.
French food, like Creole
and Cajun cuisine.
Right.
So I like, what is there more to say
I'm pretty
about
sure
New
the
Orleans?
Big Bang. I think the Big Bang happened in New Orleans. Like, I'm just starting to think, like, why is there a particle accelerator in CERN? I don't think anything happened over there. It happened in New Orleans.
But you know what, guys? You can say that about Chicago with blues.
Yes.
Yeah.
And some of the best food, and I'm not saying that because I'm from Chicago, some of the best food you ever want to taste is in Chicago. There used to be a place called Chili Max on the south side. And for people from Chicago, they know.
This is Miles' mac and cheese.
Uncle Miles.
It's chili.
Chili Max. Yeah, Chili Max is the mac, pasta. Spaghetti and cheese. Or spaghetti and chili mix. But I just say Chili Max because that was the name of the restaurant. Then there was fish places. Uncle Miles used to go and get fish after the concert, but he wouldn't eat it, but he would like this certain fish. There was a place called Army and Lou's, and my cousin is on the and Uncle Miles used to have me bring big vats of gumbo from Army and Lou's restaurant on the plane.
Wow.
On the plane. And John Harrison's on, Jay, I call him Nee. He's on the he's chiming. He used to be this big vat of gumbo on the plane to New York every time I flew to New York. So I think different regions of the country, you can't go wrong. When I go to New Orleans, I call Ivan Neville. Ivan Neville will tell me every restaurant I should go to, and Donald Harrison.
Yeah.
So that's like another reason why the whole food thing kind of came around with us was because we'd be traveling for music. And when we were booking stuff for our own jazz thing, we would book wherever we were playing based off of the location of how close it was to the food we wanted to eat where we were going. And sometimes jazz clubs had amazing food. So sometimes it was booking the jazz club with the best food. But I just want to say, like, Miles always knew exactly what he wanted, and I love hearing that he wanted gumbo from Chicago flown to him in New York. I just forgot.
Oh, from Army and Lou's restaurant. Google Army and Lou's.
Are they still around?
No, they're not. I think they've closed. But man, back in the day,
gumbo
and barbecue. Oh, we can get my cousin on the phone.
Okay.
Barbecue in Chicago, please forget about it.
We perform in Chicago all the time, and I think it's one of the best culinary scenes in the city. I think we have several
in the country.
In the country, and we have so many.
And the James Beard Awards are hosted there now.
And there's so many celebrity chefs call Chicago home. Like
Stephanie
Izar, Rick Bayless, Grant Achatz. The list goes. The list goes on and on. But I do agree with you, Vince, and I think also we grew up going to Chicago all the time. We also grew up a little bit in Champaign-Urbana, Illinois. We were like 5 or 6, but I remember going up to Chicago, like once a month.
Probably one of the first bigger food cities we've probably.
Yeah.
You're close to East St. Louis, St. Louis. You got your Kansas City barbecue. That's the Midwest.
Yeah.
Which is such a bummer that Omaha, Nebraska.
We're known for steak.
Right.
Yeah, but St. Louis is right there. Kansas City's right there.
Yeah.
Minneapolis and Chicago aren't too far away, and they all have culinary identities. We didn't get one.
There's no doubt we got the short end of that stick.
You got the steaks, though. I mean, you got the steaks.
When we used to travel with Uncle Miles, we would ride in the he had a limo provided for him, so he would ask the drivers, take me to the soul food restaurants, and they would say, well, Miles, I'm not really familiar with where they would be, and he used to say, just find the railroad tracks. So if you find it, he was like joking, find the railroad tracks. So if you find the railroad, you get the soul food to the railroad track. But that was our ongoing joke. It's in the railroad tracks, But
well, it's amazing.
Oakland, man, Oaktown. Oh Lord, they had some great.
Yeah. And it's amazing that food and music are really like the two closest thing to a city's identity. You know?
Yeah.
You know, so it
what does the
actually
city
makes
taste
sense.
like, and what does it sound like?
100%. You know, and that's where you really draw out these unique identities. You think of something like Kansas City and Kansas City swing, Kansas City barbecue. I mean, that's Kansas City in a nutshell. You know,
Macy. There's so much to what you're saying, and we always say that food feeds the body and music feeds the soul. And honestly, like, do you need to be fed anywhere else? Like, that's kind of it for me. But I just think you're right, like, in terms of the identity of the city. And then you start to think about, okay, well, who's responsible for that? Who's responsible for the food being the way it is, and why historically? And then who's responsible for the music sounding like that? And I think Kansas City is such a good way to break it down because, music-wise, I mean, Charlie Parker, Count Basie.
I mean, do you need to say more?
No. I can't. Why am I the Prez? Wasn't he from Kansas City too? Saxophone player. Lester Young. Was he?
Young? I don't. Was he?
I mean, he was in the Basie band.
Somebody let us know in the comments.
Yeah,
he had that sound for sure. Informed by that sound. Yeah.
And go ahead.
No. I was kind of done.
No, I was going to say that a lot of musician friends, and we could probably, all of us can attest to this. Great musicians are actually great chefs,
Oh yeah,
that's what I want to hear more about, because Miles too. Miles was certainly no culinary noob. I mean,
man, it was like, and it was like creating these compositions was the way he approached the kitchen. Everything had to be fresh. He would send Aaron and I out to get the freshest fish and all the he could even make popcorn, and he would put it in a saucer, and just shake the saucer and just right butter, right oil, and it's the best popcorn in the world. He would make a bouillabaisse. He would make fried fish, pasta with anchovies. Oh man, it was amazing. Fresh tomatoes. There was a deli in New York where Uncle Mike used to live on West 77, and it was called Gitlitz, and Gitlitz was on 77th and Broadway. And as a kid, he would run me to, I would run up to the store and he would make a list.
Yeah.
And I would buy this whatever he had on the list, and he'd come back, fresh garlic. I mean, it was like the way he put it together. It was incredible. But he wouldn't eat it. He wouldn't eat. That's probably why he stayed so slim. He would
really? He just cooked for everybody, and he
would cook and just taste. But he would never eat like eat.
I think because it takes an incredible amount of focus to play an instrument, that when you're in the kitchen, you're in like that same zone.
Totally.
Well, he dug seeing how when he would plate it up and serve it, or when you help yourself to it, then he would like the reaction that like, Miles, damn, this is killing.
Yeah, he's an artist.
Yeah,
this reminds me of a really, really interesting conversation we had with Herbie Hancock. We were hanging out with Glasper somewhere.
Was Vince there?
It was some Grammy thing, but we were hanging out with Glasper, and Herbie was around, and we were talking with Herbie about
Lyon,
about France and performing in France, and how he always loved performing in France because of the food, and how he befriended a bunch of chefs there. He couldn't remember at the time who the chef was, although I'm pretty sure it was Paul Bocuse. Yeah. And he was just talking about how we just got into it about this conversation, basically.
He said he wanted to hear their reactions to specific
music and chord progression.
And then what they would do with him is they wanted Herbie to describe whatever like the dish they put in front of him, but they wanted him to describe it like a jazz musician.
There were numerous times when these iconic chefs would keep the restaurant open, right? So after we play these concerts, they'd close the restaurant, and the entire band would go. Be it if we were in France or Italy or even in Japan, the sushi chef closed the restaurant down because they wanted to make they knew how
it was an artist to artist thing.
Yeah, but they knew how they wanted to prove something and have Miles sign off and like give the approval of these great chefs all around the world. And it was amazing because they would lay these spreads out for us. Too much for us to eat, but it was just the presentation and the taste. And Uncle Miles would eat a little bit, and that was it. And then we'd leave.
Well, that was their way of showing respect to Miles.
That's right. That's right.
In the food world, like it's called killing the table. You kill the table when it's somebody you respect, which means you send out everything until they're like wow, like kind of like. I don't want to curse on here, but like fuck off, basically, because it's so much food, and it's always disrespectful when a chef does that, like for you to not eat everything, and so it's kind of this like interesting relationship where you're like, wow, like thanks for all this food, and then be like, wow, like they're fattening me up, like they want me to eat all this food.
Yeah, and so go ahead, yeah.
I just think that's how they're showing. That's how they're showing Miles that they loved and respected him was by doing that, because it's like,
and that was their art.
Yeah, and it was like them showing him their songs. You know what I mean? It's like check out my mixtape. Like that's the.
He's just gonna give him the whole box set. Everything.
It was really something to experience, and even clothes designers. That was another thing. They would present Miles with all these different designs, and just to keep this. Miles, do you like this? Do you like fabrics and shit? Man, it was incredible, man.
Yeah, because an artist like that is an arbiter of just not great music, but of just great art and originality and authenticity, and someone like that can recognize it however it appears.
It wasn't. It was that, but it was like Miles had the ultimate taste.
Yeah.
Monty Cross says Lester Young was born in Mississippi, raised in New Orleans, and settled in Kansas City when he was 24.
Okay.
There you go.
Not born, but there.
Thanks, Monty.
Yeah.
Thank you,
my Manhattan School of Music jazz history teachers will be proud that I remember any of it.
It wasn't technically.
Yeah. Wait, what were you saying about?
No, I just
taste or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, if I was in the atmosphere of Miles Davis and I was doing some sort of art, I'd want to know what he thought about it. Whether it was food, whether it was like clothing. Just he had taste, so everyone was going to want to see their reactions to what they were doing.
What would you cook for Uncle Miles if he came to you?
Oh my God!
That's a good question.
Do you really want to know? I would say
no. Give me the menu, the entire menu. Give me the entire menu.
Well, now that you've said the popcorn thing, I would put popcorn in a salad that I was preparing.
Well, popcorn. Eat that. That went with the boxing when we would watch boxing. So that was the popcorn or a sporting event. So give me a menu.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'd want to ask, what did he have favorite? Did he like steak?
Indian
I know
food,
he liked meat. He liked meat a lot.
Indian food too, didn't he?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so definitely a chicken tikka masala.
The main dish would be our chicken tikka masala. It's one of our most famous dishes. We make it all the time. It's a recipe that I just think that it's like we shedded some stuff. Like we shedded that recipe, and we also made it our own. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Those are like changes.
And by shedding, I mean eating it. And by shedding it, I mean like also learning how to make it.
It was. We say this, and you guys will understand this better than anybody would. But like when we're cooking, we play it by ear. Like we aren't using a recipe.
No.
We're trying to plate
it by ear.
Because we're trying to recreate something based off of taste.
We're like transcribing music, but without, you know how you transcribe shit by ear without reading the Omni book or whatever.
Right.
Like
it's the best way to learn.
You're supposed to do it.
Best way to learn. Yeah.
We do the same thing with food. We go to London and we try the best chicken tikka masalas all around. We come home without looking at anything. We try to recreate it.
Exactly.
Sweet.
We do the same
if you
thing.
send the recipe, we'll post it on the site when we post the interview.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. We'll find.
Okay,
I'll make sure you guys get some.
So now I would definitely make a bouillabaisse because I like the use. Did he ever use Pernod in his bouillabaisse?
It's it's a French liqueur that tastes like star anise.
The secret with Miles, you never could enter the kitchen. So you never knew what his ingredients were. There was a little book, and Aaron and I are still trying to find this little black, like a little phone book with a lot of different recipes in it. But that was one thing, he never wanted you to be in the kitchen with him when he was.
Wait, I will pay to find that.
Oh yeah, we're looking for it. We're definitely
okay. We need to put SWAT teams on that.
So you say bouillabaisse and chicken tikka. What else?
Well, okay. Well, this is very off the cuff.
He's very meticulous, so you got to have everything going. Everything's got to mesh. And
I know this will be hard. This will be the challenge.
I can handle this.
Yeah.
But I would need to like prepare this. And then you said he liked his anchovy spaghetti.
No,
So maybe
this is what he prepared. Now you never knew this. So you're cooking for Miles. So you have to, I'm talking about will we start with a salad? Would we start with soup? What Come on.
Okay. I got you.
Okay.
I would make
first course.
Okay.
The first course would be.
I would start with the bouillabaisse.
No. I know. I would start with a ceviche of some kind, something that's light but packs the flavor. And he'd be like, he's like, to me, it'd be like that's the first song you start off at a show. You start them strong, but you start them a little light. You don't give them your heaviest shit.
Right.
Flavor. And he loved Japanese food, so I would say a ceviche being a raw fish dish, it would probably work well.
Yeah, no, but yeah.
He loved salad niçoise too. Salad niçoise.
Oh, niçoise. Okay, so that would be a good. We could also do a fusion where you put a little bit of the raw fish on top of the niçoise salad.
Instead of the tuna. Okay.
Instead of the tuna.
A little bitches brew fusion type deal.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Little John McLaughlin salad.
Yeah.
The second dish. So I would say I would maybe hit him with an intermezzo because I wouldn't want him to go straight into something strong. Like you give him a little palate cleanser. Because Miles, I think, he would want to reset maybe a little bit. Actually, no. Maybe he
definitely want to reset. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, but then at the same time, I think about like Miles and like the music, and I don't know. I feel like I'm putting a lot out here that could get shot down, so that's why.
No. Keep it all light now. What's next?
Okay.
I know for a fact.
No. We've entered into what I would say are our room temperature to chilled dishes because we're going to throw the intermezzo in there. So I'd say now you hit him with the bouillabaisse because it's still light. It's a sophisticated fish broth. Mm-hmm. Having said that, you hit him with some temperature. You hit him with it's a warmer soup.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So then I do the bouillabaisse, and it would be lobster, it would be crab, it would be scallops, it would be everything, and he'd be like, he wouldn't say like there wouldn't be any like fish fillets in there, but just be all the best stuff.
Yeah, only the best for Miles.
Yes.
And then I think I would have to hit him with
the chicken tikka because we're throwing him.
No, but that doesn't make sense in terms of like a playlist. You don't just hit him with some French shit and then hit him with some like. Indian
But I would say chicken tikka is like a fusion. It's a Indian soul food.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's like a gravy.
I think he would appreciate that.
But I think what I was picturing for the main course would be some sort of insane like Wagyu porterhouse, some over the top like
served in a Lamborghini.
Yeah, exactly. Like you serve him like a red Ferrari on a plate, basically.
Right.
Because you're just like. It's like
we go out there and like no one can have this dish. Only Miles can have this dish.
Yeah,
this isn't going to anybody. The president can come in here. He ain't getting this dish. Only Miles gets this dish.
What about dessert?
Okay, now I have to think about
it. Wait, no. What desserts do you think Miles would have liked?
I'm on the fence. I think he would have liked the chocolate mousse because of the texture.
No, but what the first thing that came to mind with me is I thought he would love chocolate, but I also think he could potentially have a polarizing opinion of chocolate. Like either he was obsessed with chocolate or couldn't stand it.
He loved Toblerone. Toblerone?
Toblerone.
Yeah. So he liked milk chocolates then. He liked creamier chocolates maybe. Okay. So maybe like a molten lava cake. I know it's
no.
Not too heavy, guys. Think.
Yeah,
okay.
Maybe a Toblerone souffle or something like that. I don't know.
Okay. So yeah, souffle would be like a really light way to do that.
Did he like ice cream?
Yes.
Okay. So I would say we wouldn't make that, but we'd fly in a gelato or something.
No, I'd hit him with like an olive oil ice cream, like an off-color ice cream, an ice cream that isn't just like chocolate, vanilla, strawberry, like an actual a bitch's brew of ice cream.
Or it's a vanilla ice cream, and you do the balsamic vinegar on top.
Donald Harrison chimed in. He said, "Let me make some gumbo." From New Orleans.
Hey man,
I want to eat Donald.
First of all, big Donald Harrison fan, and also
is Christian Scott's?
Yeah, Christians. We're friends with Christian, and I know they're related somehow.
Yes, Donald is Christian's uncle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we'd love to try that gumbo and also learn what his recipe is too.
Okay.
But we can save that for another time.
Vince, I have to actually think through this because
me too. Yeah,
I can't be put on the spot.
You're almost saying like make an album in like a 30-second conversation. I got to conceptualize it. I got to know everything.
But you know what, guys? This is how Miles worked. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like he'd give you a set list, but sometimes he'd flip the order on you. So that's why you have to be ready for,
Yes.
you know.
On the spot.
But think
Okay.
about it. Dig this. Think about it. Send it to Brian and I, and we'll post up.
We'll put the menu up. The
Yeah.
Potash Twins, Miles Davis, Miles Monday menu.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Meatless Monday. Miles Meatless Monday.
Just get all the hashtags in there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this is, guys, this is essentially the kind of the premise of the show that was on Bravo, right? Beats and Bites.
Yeah.
Where
Beats
you
and
were.
Bites? Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No,
You're
Beats
pairing
and Bites-
artists with musicians or chefs
Exactly.
with musicians.
Beats and Bites was like that show that we
don't know how we convinced them to do that show.
We don't know how we got it made, but we got it made because in like on paper it's like pretty esoteric, but in reality it's like the best thing that's ever happened. And we got Wynton Marsalis to have dinner with Tom Colicchio, where Tom Colicchio cooked for all of us and then ate with us, and then we talked about music and food,
and then we jammed with Wynton.
After.
It was like
that was like we had many episodes like that. Robert Glasper did an episode where we did we went to Pig and Cow in the Lower East Side and had incredible. Is it Thai fusion?
Yeah.
Kind of. Yeah. And then we jammed on. I think we played like a standard or something, but
it was definitely modal.
Beats and Bites was about sitting down an iconic musician with an iconic chef and have them talk about their art forms and try to get the musician to see that food is a lot like music and try to get the chef to see that music is a lot like food and just to try to get them to have a love fest about it.
Because the one thing they have in common is their like artistry.
In technique.
In the creativity and just the creation of art. And it wasn't the platforms that were the same. It was like the being overall essence of being an artist and their approach to making their art. And the technique. Some like we had Michael Voltaggio with Smino, who's an amazing rapper. And Michael Voltaggio is one of the he's one of these like very technically incredible chefs, but he's like a very violent in his art.
He's very
elaborate on that in a way.
He's Michael Voltaggio, huge celebrity chef.
Yeah.
Very, very creative. Like kind of known as like potentially one of the top 2 most creative chefs.
I mean, you have Grant Achatz who's on.
Yeah, there aren't many people on that level. He's like kind of like wow. Who's the saxophone player, free jazz?
Ornette Coleman.
Ornette Coleman. He's like one of the Ornette.
Okay.
He's like an Ornette Coleman of cooking.
Cool.
And getting and also he's a big music guy, but his approach to cooking is like originality. Yeah. And I want to.
If somebody else did it, he would never even attempt to try that.
And so having him have that conversation in a musical conversation, very interesting, very interesting.
Yeah.
And he's not really much of a jazz guy, although he
probably would be if he tried to do that. If he
turn him on to Ornette Coleman.
Yeah,
exactly. But it's like I said, it was that show was just all about trying to pair these artists of 2 different art forms that had similar like approaches to their art. Yeah. And it was really great, and I think we can still make that more of that show. It was so great, but it was just a way to get people to see what we see about music and food, really.
Right. Who is the foodiest jazz artist you've ever hung out with? Someone who you could really talk food with.
Glasper thinks he can.
Keyword thinks.
Robert always it comes back to this I performed. He doesn't say it like this, but he'll be like, I performed in Japan 1,000 times. Like I know sushi.
You know what I mean? He ate the best story with Rob was when he was in Japan
for the first time.
For the first time, he ate an entire thing of
ginger.
Sliced ginger, thinking it was like prosciutto.
He thought it was
ham.
He thought it was ham.
Whoops.
So no, I would say
biggest jazz.
John Faddis is on another level of foodie.
Really?
He's pretentious about
we'll take him a place and I'll get texts and phone calls for the rest of my life about how much that place sucked.
Oh, no. Okay.
He's
high
on
standards.
that level.
Yeah.
High standards.
He's ungodly with the chops too. So
if you can play that high, that should be your standard of eating that high.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I find a lot of musicians they're very meticulous about presentation of their meals, of their plate. Daryl Jones, great bassist.
Yeah.
I think he studied with the soba like a chef in Japan. Wow. He looked them over. He was introduced to him. and he makes the greatest sushi from scratch. You know, this is Daryl from South Side of Chicago, and he's still studying. You know, and Charlie Drake. A lot of my friends, the presentation is just as important as the dish. You know,
Well, you eat with your eyes first.
To me, presentation is like the mastering on an album. Like
Yes.
the album is already good before mastering, but when you get it into mixing and mastering, it's so that other people can see what you see about it. You know what I mean? Like when you're presenting a dish to somebody, you already like you know what it's going to taste like.
It, probably.
Yeah, you know what it's going to taste like, but you eat with your eyes first, and so it's kind of like a first impression on an album, maybe like an album cover.
Yeah,
and you want to suck people into it. Actually, I might go back and say that seasoning is the mixing and mastering because there's like tweakage that happens.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
I know, but here's the thing about us: is like we're ideas people. It flows all the time. We have to funnel it into the like right conversation, but once we start thinking about it, we think about it.
Right.
Hold on, got another. Everybody's texting me.
Well, I'll ask because I'm so curious. You know, I want to say you grew up, your parents were listening to jazz. You became horn players. Were they cooking as well? Was cooking big in your family, or were you take out people, or where'd that love for cooking come from?
No, they definitely love to cook, but I would say as much as I don't know if that influenced my cooking as much as
no. But we did grow up eating home cooked food every day, so I think that does play a role into it. We probably take that for granted at that time.
Yeah, and our parents traveled internationally for work all the time, and we would always say to them like, "Don't bring." Is that our chicken tikka?
We got the chicken tikka recipe from the Potash Twins.
Yes. Make that thing.
Casey, Brian, let's post this. This is all right, guys?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, of course.
Go ahead. Keep talking. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Thanks, Casey. Shout out to Casey.
Thank you, Casey. So our parents traveled internationally for work, and we would always say that we wanted them to bring us back a souvenir, but we didn't want a keychain or whatever.
Or a t-shirt.
Or a t-shirt. We want them to bring us back whatever food they could from wherever they were.
Nice.
And that would, because like it would be like us traveling without having to do that. And then so that influenced us a lot. Like we would be cooking a lot of Chinese food, a lot of Japanese food.
Our mom was like worked in India like a lot.
6 months.
So we'd she'd learn a lot about Indian food. So she'd come back and we'd like go to Indian restaurants. And we'd try making some at home.
All of a sudden we'd start cooking with ghee in our kitchen.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I mean, so we're very adventurous eaters. Like we will literally eat anything because we grew up keeping strict kosher, and we were vegetarian.
Yeah, and we were vegetarians too
until we were 15 or 16. So it was like once we started eating everything, we literally embraced that.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. So this is relatively late. What brought on the change to go from vegetarian to all right, I'm eating it all?
We were hungry.
Yeah, that makes sense.
What we always say. But the most interesting story, I think, is how we started to not keep kosher.
Yes.
All right. So we would. Well, it depends how much you know about our career or not. But our surrogate father is this guy named Andrew Zimmern, who had a show called Bizarre Foods on Travel Channel.
Yeah, love
Very famous chef, very famous television personality. And we would grow up watching him and Anthony Bourdain with our parents. And my dad would always say, if you ever meet any of them, like you don't have to keep kosher. Like if you can share a meal with them, like forget about that. And one day we were
performing in Omaha
with Curly Martin. Terrace Martin's dad. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
And Andrew Zimmern was in town, like giving a speech somewhere. And we connected on Instagram, and we got, we shared dinner together, and the rest was history. I mean, he's the executive producer of every TV show we've ever done. He's honestly one of the biggest music nerds in the world.
Yes,
like would freak out if he knew we were having this conversation. To be honest,
So was Bourdain though. Again, more overlap, just more and more overlap between.
And the thing is, Andrew and Bourdain were both huge rock and roll fans, and they were very, very close. Like they would talk.
Both went to Vassar.
Yeah, they went there. There's a long history between the two of them, but they both really loved rock and roll. And but Andrew also does listen to quite a bit of jazz too.
Yeah. And Emerald had a live band on his show.
Yeah,
yes, Emerald did.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Dave Dr. Gibbs was the band leader for that.
And Dr. Gibbs played in there too. Dr. Gibbs.
Yes. And also that made complete sense with Emerald being a New Orleans, icon. but yeah, there's to us, we still are always on this constant journey to learn as much as we can about food and learn as much as we can about music, and wherever they intersect, they intersect. And I think that we found that chefs love music and musicians love food, and we're somehow the way that those people talk about it or communicate to each other about it,
or like met each other when they wouldn't have ever met each other.
And that's an honored role for us. Like, we don't take that lightly. We try to understand both, and I think we have this really unique perspective and lens of being like these guys who went to New York City and went to music school at Manhattan School of Music and SUNY Purchase and like perform and understand music theory and all this, but then also understand cooking, and we're sort of equipped to have that conversation. Is my point.
Right.
Yeah. What greater a feeling is to play it all over the world, and then maybe after a great concert, then you go enjoy a great meal at a beautiful restaurant.
The hang, the infamous hang.
That's it.
The hang is part of the show,
Yeah.
It is. We say, because we've been doing so many interviews, but we always talk about how the second
we're off stage,
our last downbeat hits, it's like, okay, where are we eating?
Food? It goes right to that.
There is not even a second go. Like, honestly, when you're in the middle of your last chorus on the last song, you're like, all right, I could eat that.
Yeah.
That's what you're thinking. And I'm sure we're not alone in that.
I don't know if Miles ever thought like that. I don't know.
No. Miles was too present. He was in the moment. He never looked behind him either. He never looked back. Like he was already done with whatever he just finished doing. There was none of that.
The chorus he just finished was history.
Yeah,
the promoter knew where to take him after the show. So it was already lined up. And every time we would go to Europe, it would be the same promoters, and they would know, Miles, there's a new restaurant in town. The chef is dying for you to come and visit.
Vince, was there anything he didn't like to eat? Like, was there some things he would have like a reaction? Like I will not eat that. I will not eat that.
No, I never experienced him refuse anything. But all I remember is he wouldn't eat a lot. You know what I mean? It was just like to knock the edge off.
And same music. Guy listened to everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah, but never an overeater. Never like cleaning. I never like take a whole plate of food.
I have maybe the most important question of this whole conversation. What was on Miles's rider and what was in his dressing room, like food wise?
Only green M&Ms.
No, just water, bottled water. Believe it or not, bottled water and fruit.
Mm-hmm.
Like he wasn't going to eat there.
Well, he didn't want to eat before the show. He didn't want to see anybody.
All about music.
It was all about the music.
Yeah.
He might not even touch the plate. Just water, chewing gum. He always wanted some chewing gum before he went on stage. And that was
we're the same way about that. As I don't want to eat or look at food. Our band will eat before, but they're not. They're not the show of the show. Like,
but also being brass players, like if you eat anything greasy, you're screwed for the night.
Some guys can eat. Some like my band. Some of the guys in my band could eat before. I don't never eat before a show, but some guys
never.
Eat,
when you're so focused on the music, I can't think. I mean, when we're working on music in the studio, 10 hours will go by. I haven't even thought about food. I haven't eaten anything.
But some guys could eat and play their ass off 2 hours later.
Before, during, and after.
Or Charlie, you saying Charlie Parker?
Exactly.
Because didn't Charlie Parker eat like he would? I mean, he loved soul food. He would get fried chicken before he'd play. I mean, there's stories about that too. But
I heard Bird liked to eat. He liked to eat. Yeah.
What was I going to say? Oh well. So he didn't. So nothing in the dressing room, just water and chewing gum.
Water and fruit, like fruit basket, flowers,
healthy stuff. Yeah,
healthy. But he would just and he would talk to each band member, and we just talk the set list down, and that was it. And he would always ask for the chewing gum right before he went right on stage.
He played with gum in his mouth.
Yeah, but I mean, just to probably, I didn't know when he spit it out or what he did with it, but he just wanted the chewing gum. And,
I mean, I have played with chewing gum in my mouth. Like,
but doesn't it dehydrate your tongue?
It does. That's the one thing I don't get.
I just gave it to him. I didn't know what he did with it. You might have.
Maybe he chewed and spit it right out.
Spit it out.
Probably.
Well, maybe if you chew it for like a second, it like moisturizes.
Well, and then it's funny. This is like the craziest thing because I've grown up my entire life being told as a trumpet player that like the warm and hot air is what gets a beautiful tone quality. So It's funny me picturing Miles Davis like a spearmint gum.
Yeah.
Going right
Yeah.
off the page.
Trident.
Oh, now we know what to do. Yeah.
Now we exactly. You want to play like Miles? Just pop and try it.
Vince, I've been wanting to ask you about this because I think the most interesting part of Miles's life, from an outside perspective, obviously, was his time when he first went to Paris and he did the soundtrack for Elevator to the Gallows, and he was hanging out with Picasso. Like, I feel like food was really important to that element, and I feel like I don't know anything about the food, or people don't talk about the food element of that, but that had to have played a role.
But all of us who've traveled abroad, man, you can taste the difference. Can't you guys? Can't you, Brian?
Yeah.
Brian, I taste the difference in the vegetables. I taste the difference in the salads and the fish. So
the bread and the butter.
Our food here has like a Harmon in it.
Yeah, a lot of preservatives.
And not the Miles.
No, not that.
No.
And there was no racism. Dig that. Everybody was created. They appreciated the art.
What hit me in the documentary, Vince, was when Miles was coming back from France, and he was like, it didn't really hit him until he landed how much he hated being back in America at that time.
He was depressed, because of the inequalities that were happening still, but that's a whole nother show.
Yeah.
But music and food, they do go hand in hand.
They do.
It's a tie-in.
And I think Miles, if we had given the chance to talk about it with him, probably would have said the most enlightening thing on the subject.
Yeah, well, you got to figure it. You got to figure he wouldn't. He would just say, "Shut the fuck up," and let him, and then he would cook.
Yeah. Okay.
And he wouldn't let you in the kitchen, and he just played it up, and then you go for it.
Vince, was his process when he was cooking? His process, like, how, he would have you go get all the fresh food, and if it wasn't fresh, he wasn't going to cook it.
Right.
Was there? I know he wouldn't let you in the kitchen either. But did you ever walk by the doorway and see
No.
You don't know if he was meticulous with his mise en place.
I think we know that he would have.
Yeah, but I'm not even convinced that he didn't have like a chef in there. If he didn't want people to see it,
he was just ordering Postmates and get it.
I just remember it was a lot of cleaning we had to do. He would cook and then walk out of the kitchen, and he's on to the on to painting. But it was a lot of.
He did it right. He did it right because if you have a lot of dishes, it means that he had mise en place, everything in its place.
Yeah,
it seems like he's the kind of guy who would really take it seriously.
Very. You got to we got to talk to Aaron, his son, man. He was like,
I would love to talk to him.
And anybody who's ever been blessed to have his food, it's like to But
Vince, do you recall ever a time Miles is eating something and he's just like, "Oh, Vince, this is so good." Never. No,
because he wouldn't play a tune. He
wouldn't play a tune and talk about it.
Man, this is so good. He's like, he would leave it up to you.
Yeah,
if you dug it, if you dug the song, if you dug the food.
Was Miles?
Well, he had such a gravity, I'm sure, that he didn't want to influence what you thought about it.
Yeah.
Well, shit, man, it was great. So it's like you didn't have anything bad to say about it.
He wasn't going to serve you any shit, right?
Yeah. If Miles either cooked it or ate it, it was probably freaking good.
No, but I have to ask this: was Miles overly enthusiastic in his appeal of food, or of anything? Like, did he be like, "I love that," I love that shit, or did he never say anything about it? You would just know he loved it.
Music,
music he would know.
Music, yeah, but food was like, if Miles cooked it, how the hell can you think it wasn't going to be good? Because Miles was, he just had that touch.
Well, it's that people go into celebrity chefs' restaurants and they're like, the food could be bad, and but a celebrity chef made it. It's going to be amazing. And I'm sure there was some sort of that happening when Miles was cooking food. Like Miles Davis, to me, it's the attention to detail he probably took.
There you go. And I'm not saying it because he's my uncle, but if Miles Davis cooks you bouillabaisse, 9 times out of 10, this shit's going to be the bomb.
Well, something that's so funny about that is Dave Grohl is very obsessed with barbecue.
Obsessed.
And I think to this day, the best barbecue I've ever had, he made for us.
Wow.
And so,
Dave Grohl.
Yes. His
Talk
brisket.
to KC about
his brisket is like off the chain.
Really?
And I think
Yeah.
and I think there's something about like being a very good musician and being able to like execute stuff to a very high level.
Because when we had Sheila E on this new show, when we were making pad thai with her, which is like when you're cooking with a wok, it's fast and it's hot. There's no like delicacy about it. Like and she was like, "Yeah, I've been under much more pressure than this."
Yeah, she can handle it.
You knew that.
They're like their intensity meter is like low because they're just used to having to like bring it.
I'm sorry, but when Prince is like, "Play, you're soloing now," there's probably no pressure.
No, cooking is therapeutic at that point.
Great musicians make great food. I heard Prince can make great pancakes. Did you ever hear that?
Yes, I have heard
From
that.
Dave
too.
Chappelle.
I've heard that too.
Yeah, I'm Dave Chappelle. And
I've heard that.
Also, Jonathan. Go ahead, Vince.
No, go say go ahead.
Jonathan Waxman, who is one of the most influential people in American cuisine, no doubt,
Very big chef.
no doubt,
Very big chef. Barbudo is his restaurant.
Barbudo in New York.
Okay.
He and Michael's in Los Angeles. This guy, he was the lead trombone player for Sammy Davis Jr.
The chef.
Before he was a chef.
Wow.
And he played with a bunch of other people.
So one of the first times we did a gig together, we were performing and he was hosting and cooking was
in Miami.
In Miami
for Food Network.
And he asked us to perform for it. He was being honored for an award. He was like, "I want the Twins to play." And after we finished playing, he was like, "You guys are going to make great chefs one day."
See?
Yeah. It's just like it's a part of the conversation.
Yeah.
There's no separation. No separation. Yeah.
The people, it's a
Marcus Samuelson is a great like example of that.
He's a big admirer of music. I don't think we've ever Marcus has ever played music to my knowledge that we know.
No, but I'm saying like Ginny's in Harlem. The music there is equally as important to him as the food.
This is the one thing I wanted to say about the music and food thing. If you know, you know. Either you can explain it or you can't, because either you have an understanding of music and you have an understanding of food, and then it makes sense to you, or you don't know anything about either, and then you're just like, why do people talk about that all the time?
Right.
But if you know, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
You mentioned Faddis. I wonder if Faddis could make a great dish.
Oh yeah. I'm like, has he ever
I don't think he's ever cooked for us before.
I bet she could throw down.
I have no doubt he could throw down. He's one of the most focused human beings.
But also, he's very picky about his food.
He's like very picky about his food.
Like he would always.
I'd go into a lesson or something with him. He'd eat an entire gallon of ice cream in one sitting.
Yeah, I'm sure he'd love for you to put that on blast right now.
No, but he loved ice cream. I mean, Dizzy loved ice cream.
That's true.
Yeah.
No,
Coltrane loved candy bars.
Did Miles ever talk about like Bird or Dizzy or any other jazz greats? Yeah, or Coltrane. Did he ever mention any kind of food that they all ate together, or that like meals that they had? Like, did they ever have like an iconic meal where they were all together? I mean, I'm sure they had many.
He never mentioned it, but he did mention that he made a cebulia base and duck. Two separate dishes for Buddy Miles, and Buddy Miles came over to the house and ate. Because Buddy loved to eat. And he loved Buddy Miles. So.
He was very influenced by French cooking.
Oh
very influenced.
Yeah.
Miles?
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, making bouillabaisse in probably the 50s, 60s, 70s in America,
everything was like a little bit of this, like ingredient, like a little spicy, But it was never like I'm going to sit down and watch the Galloping Gourmet or anything like that.
Did he like spicy food?
Relatively, yeah. I think from what I remember, yeah. But
I could see him being like either very particular about the heat. I could see him being very particular about that.
I remember he used to send my mom out for jack salmon. And after the concerts in Chicago, my mom would go out and bring it, or he loved to come to the house where I grew up, and my mom would cook for him. Then he said he stopped coming because he said the bathroom was too close to the kitchen. He just made a joke. He said, "Dorothy, your bathroom's too close to the kitchen."
Yeah.
But it was just a joke, But he loved my mom's cooking.
Home cooking, man. And you guys bring in a third element, which is television and media, which didn't necessarily exist. Just food TV, the way it exists now, didn't necessarily exist back when Miles was doing his thing. So what was it like as we wrap up, what was it like to kind of enter that stage for the first time of, television, food TV with the likes of Andrew Zimmern.
It's, first of all, surreal to us all the time that anybody lets us talk in front of a camera. But I'll also say this about the reason why we wanted to do television and why we made the shows we've made is the time we started to realize like audience was really important to music and to just being like having a career was while we were like at Manhattan School of Music in New York, and this like important part of our
quickly
journey.
I wanted to say that at MSM is the old Juilliard building. So where you
oh yeah, technically I went where Miles
yeah.
That building has a lot of history too. But we always wanted to use the television to highlight the music of our friends and people that we thought never were on TV enough.
Right. Glasper's been on 2 of our shows.
Yeah, like exactly. Like Robert Glasper should be able to just go out into and be on any TV show he wants because we're biased, of course, but I think he's like a living legend. Totally. And we were like the first shows we made. It was like, how do we highlight food and jazz artists and artists that we think need a spotlight, but who we think deserve the spotlight
on any media we're on,
and on anything and anything we have control over, we'll use it for that.
Right.
And that's why we put Winton on and Glasper on it, all these other artists on it. Not that they needed it, but just we wanted people. We were curating this for people,
and also we love talking to Winton about food. I know that there are other people, fans of his, that want to hear what he has to say about food. If you know Winton, if you know Winton, you know already. Having said that, I want to hear what he has to say about pretty much anything, let alone food. And being from such a big New Orleans family, he's gonna have opinions about it.
And he also rarely speaks out on things that he doesn't perfect. You know what I mean? He's a perfectionist kind of. Right. And he'll only talk about, culture and jazz and trumpet playing. And so it's give me a little thing about food. Give me a little thing about food. Because I'm really curious, because you don't talk about it very much.
And that's why, if we would have been born in the time of Miles Davis, you wouldn't have stopped us getting to ask these questions with him.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it's so personal. It's so personal. Food and music. It's that's so much part of your character, so it's amazing to see these conversations. So Beats and Bites, that was on Bravo. Can those episodes be watched?
Yes. Yeah, you can watch it. They're still on. I think they're on demand somewhere, but you can also get them on the Bravo app or on BravoTV.com. Okay. But then definitely our new show on Food Network. You can watch all 10 episodes right now on the Food Network Kitchen app, which is their streaming platform that you have on Apple TV and whatever. It's called The Takeout Twins. We have Sheila E. on it, Music Soul Child's on it, Joel McHale, Rob Riggle, Andrew Zimmern, a bunch of other great guests. But it's basically us making the most popular takeout dishes and teaching celebrities how to make it. And then at the end of each episode, they have no idea. We order delivery of the same dish that we were teaching them how to make so that they can do a side-by-side comparison of the one they made and the one that they'd order on a daily basis.
And see if ours holds up.
Right. Wow. Yeah. Wow, that's cool. Real cool.
Yeah, it's been really fun.
Excellent. Well, hey guys, thanks for doing this. Normally we wrap each show. I ask all guests, as soon as the cameras go off, what Miles Davis album are you going to spin tonight? And I'll ask that to you, but we also got to ask, what are you going to eat, man? What's for dinner?
Wow.
I know.
Well,
I'm thinking some crispy tofu with something.
With kind of blue or maybe Birth of the Cool.
I'll say this about Miles Davis.
I kind of want to hear some bebop Miles Davis tonight.
I think because Kind of Blue was the most listened to jazz record of all time. It's my favorite jazz album of all time. But whenever I hear
Freddie Freeloader,
no, Milestones.
Oh
yeah.
I'm holy shit! This is a different player. This is a different Miles player. It's the bebop Miles versus the modal Miles.
You would literally be that's Dizzy, right? If you really didn't know your trumpet players, you would probably say something like that on Miles.
And it sounds so much like Clifford Brown to me too.
Early Miles stuff. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, early Miles stuff. I always think that Miles was kind of had like several different jazz lives. Like he had the bebop life, the cool life, and the modern life.
Yeah.
And I just think like
no, he was so many different artists in one.
He was like,
but there was always a through line too. It's like you
Yes.
knew it sounded different, but you knew still it was Miles.
But any artist would be so satisfied and happy and content with being one of those of Miles's career.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the reason he's
But
the
that was
god,
the confidence of Miles.
yeah, but the reason he's the god and the legend that we all know him as is because he was able to do everything, and
Right.
he was
Well, he
able
just kept
to.
pushing forward. There was
Name one musician who played with Charlie Parker and Prince.
Right.
Holy shit, there aren't any.
That's it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I know. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Covers
All
the
right.
world.
For us, it'd be like, can you name someone that's played with like Wynton Marsalis and Diplo?
Mm.
Potash
for
Twins.
us.
Potash Twins.
But that's not the same, obviously.
no.
But it's like it is. It's a crazy like juxtaposition.
Yeah.
All right.
Amazing.
So tonight is a kind of birth of the cool crispy tofu night.
yes.
Yeah.
Maybe Jeru. Maybe Jeru. Some Jerry Mulligan.
Oh, yeah, man.
I don't know. I
I
haven't
want to hear what
fully
Vince would
decided.
say. What's your favorite Miles album?
Brian's on time to wrap this up.
I love Kind of Blue, and I love the track Blue and Green.
Yeah.
I could
Yeah,
just
the best Coltrane solo of all time.
over and over. Bill Evans, The Touch, but then I'll flip it and go to On the Corner. You know, but on my turntable right now, Kind of Blue, Blue and Green. I'm gonna play it when we wrap. I'm gonna go down and play it.
Kind of Blue is just always going to be my favorite. Maybe because it's nostalgic. It was the first
I would
jazz
say
album
maybe
I've
the
ever
most
heard.
beautiful saxophone
For a lot of
solo
people,
ever.
yeah.
It's hypnotic. It puts me in a zen mode.
I know people who wake up to it every day. The Bill Evans intro, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. It's beautiful. Well, Adeev, Ezra, thank you so much, guys, for joining us, for talking Miles, for talking. If people wanted to follow along, see what's going on with you guys, check you out. What's the best place to do that?
Yes, find us on Instagram at Potash Twins. You can find us, and some days it's about jazz, some days it's about food, and some days it's about both. You'll have to wait and see what's out of the bed we wake up on. Or I wake
Right
up
on.
on.
Right on. And your album is out, streamable.
Yeah.
On
Yeah,
everywhere.
cool.
Our most recent single we did featuring Robert Glasper, and the music video is the star of it is Terry Crews. It's a fun little whole thing. So definitely check that out on YouTube.
Very cool. And the new show, what's it called? Takeout Twins?
Takeout Twins.
Takeout
Food
Twins.
Network. Yeah.
Stream it right now. Very cool.
Absolutely.
Adeev, Ezra, thank you so much again for joining us. This was awesome. We're going to have to grab him after this whole thing is over. Oh, there Vince got his red specs.
I love you guys, man.
Solidarity.
I love you too, Vince. This has been great.
I refer to you as my little brothers, man. I love you.
Yes.
Thanks for coming on the show, man.
We're honored to be even referred to as that.
Man.
So thank you.
Yeah, man.
We are going to have to grab a meal once this is all behind us.
Yes, Brian. Yes.
But all right, fellas, we'll see you backstage. Vince and I are going to sign off with everybody watching.
Thanks so much. Bye, you guys.
So long, guys.
Love you guys.
So long.
Yeah, B.
That was cool, Vince.
Yeah, B.
Thanks for hooking that
They're
up,
so
man.
cool because they they answer each other's questions, but they don't step on each other.
Thing.
Yeah.
Twin thing going on.
Did you see them both wipe their eye at the same time, or they were thinking about something? They did.
Or I asked them to think. They both did the
yeah,
same thing.
yeah, and that's what
like
they
that
did.
with the music too. You get on the same wavelength,
Yeah.
Right
Great guy. Great energy, man. Cat's got great energy.
Absolutely. Well, this has been very cool. Like I said, check out that Santana issue on jazzes.com.
Yeah.
Check out the merch, the Miles Davis merch. I set my sweatshirt up back there so everyone could see it at milesdavis.com. And
my cousin John Hairston, Army and Luz, says great show.
Oh, appreciate that, John.
Maria from New York. Everybody's digging it.
Well, thanks for watching, everyone. And like I say, follow us on Facebook.
Yeah. Tell them
sign up for our newsletter. Follow us on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button so you know when we are going live every Monday for Miles Monday.
Every Monday, baby.
All right, Vince.
Thanks, B.
I'll see you next. Another great show, man. I will see you next Monday.
Stay safe. Got the Miles swag. Miles Davis online. MilesDavis.com online at the Miles Davis shop. Get you a mask. Get you some
Stay
music.
safe. Stay healthy. Wash your hands, everyone.
Wash your hands. Love you, B.
We'll see you next week. Love you too, man.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.